Now, I understand he wants to do things to the banks. He wants to overhaul the regulations of banks, the biggest overhaul since the 1930s. Many of you knee-jerk conservatives are saying, nay, no good, no overhaul, no, leave the good bankers alone. They know what they're doing. They need $16 billion in bonuses at Goldman Sachs. Well, now I got a little news for you. The banks need to be taken to the woodshed. They need a regulatory overhaul. I agree with Obama. Now, on that, I agree with Obama. Now, I don't care that you see it as anti-business. I don't care what the business people say. I know an awful lot about business, and I'm telling you, those boys on Wall Street not only should have an overhaul, they should be taken over the coals and be given a spanking. After all, we bailed them out. Now they're giving themselves $16 billion in bonuses? No, wrong. So in this one, I say the regulatory overhaulers. I want to talk about the McCain-Feingold legislation, because I'm actually on record with this. I have said before that there must be regulation of donations to political campaigns, and I stick by that as well. Many of you are brainwashed by the cigar-smoking, golf ball-hitting gentleman on radio in the morning who does a fairly good job, but you have to understand where he's coming from. This man is in favor of deregulation at all costs because he doesn't understand nuance. The reason he doesn't understand nuance is because he's gotten very far by talking in black and white terms. He doesn't even understand what he's saying half the time because he has no education to back up his rhetoric. I have studied things as a scholar. Scholarly work has led me to understand that if you study something in great detail, you come up with a slightly different opinion, and it's either this or that. In some cases, not in all. Some things are black and white. Okay, child molestation is black and white. There's no nuance. Okay, but so let's not go there. Let's talk about regulation now for the minute. You say that we don't need any regulation of contributions to political campaigns. I say you're wrong. And now you're saying, well, the left is screaming that this just being overturned by the Supreme Court just yesterday means that, like the fanatics on MSNBC are screaming, this means corporations will elect the next president, blah, blah, blah. Well, what these creatures on MSNBC don't understand is that who elected Obama? Where'd that $1 trillion come from? Who elected him? Where'd the money come from? It came from who? Where'd it come from? Didn't come from nowhere. It's because there was an unrestricted amount of money that could be poured in there. So it came in from who knows? Soros. People are speculating. Saudi Arabia, China. Nobody knows where Obama got the money from. This unknown guy from Chicago. $1 trillion in his campaign. So don't tell me the corporations are going to pick the next president. Yeah, what about the unions? And the unions can outpour $1 trillion if they have it into a campaign. It's not limited to corporations. The union's also going to outpour $1 million here and $10 million there and $100 million there. So really, it's unrestricted in that regard. So if you're a leftist or a rightist, you say, well, it's great. Now we can donate. No, but I don't say it's great. I think that it's a shame that we can have candidates bought and sold by interests altogether. I'd like to see campaigns run a little more honestly, and I think that we do need some constraints on the large amounts of money pouring into campaigns, whether it be unions or corporations or money traders in the temple of democracy. Robin in San Diego disagrees with me, and I'm so glad she called. Robin, why do you disagree with me on regulating banks, bringing us back to the Glass-Steagall times?
Yeah, Dr. Savage, it's because Barack Hussein Obama is a professional Marxist-Leninist, and what you're doing is you're feeding...
Oh, well, you see, here you go again. You didn't even hear my argument. You didn't hear my discussion. You're not even talking about the Glass-Steagall Act. Instead, you're regurgitating the rubbish that you learned from people who went to high school on Fox News.
I'm a former communist, Dr. Savage, and I know...
Oh, good. That doesn't mean you're intelligent. In fact, that you're a former communist indicates that you're actually probably quite ignorant.
I am very ignorant. However...
All right, good. All right, let's stop the insults. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll back it up. The Glass-Steagall Act, unto itself, was very protective of the little guy, Robin. How could we argue over that?
I concur. But Barack Hussein Obama is not the person to do that because he is a professional Marxist-Leninist.
Okay, on that we agree. He is a Marxist-Leninist. I agree with you on that. I was the first in the media to point out that he was a socialist, and I said there are 30, 40 kinds of socialists. We don't know exactly where on the scale of socialism he will fall, if you recall that. I don't know how long you've been listening to my show.
He is a communist. I've learned a lot from you, Dr. Savage.
All right, fine. I agree with you. He's a naked communist. That is true. but he is also a politician functioning in a capitalist system. And he also answers to powers that are greater than himself. And they are advising him right here. So there's a populist notion that the banks got away with murder after bankrupting themselves and stealing trillions of dollars from the investors. They had the nerve to go to the government, who took money from us, mainly through the Treasury Secretary under Bush. I forget his name already, Mr. Brer Rabbit, whoever he was. What was his name, Beowulf?
The reason, and again, I don't. I prefer to characterize it as me explaining the Fed's supervisory authority.
All right, that was Paulson on his ranch in Michigan. They asked him where the money went. The mayor just gave birth. The afterbirth, we don't know. The hay is in the straw. So it was he who did this to us. He let the investment banks reorganize into banks so they can profit from the stimulus money. Many of these guys should be in jail. They shouldn't be rolling in more money. So how do we disagree here?
Because you are permitting Barack Hussein Obama to take power that belongs in the Constitution, not in his hands.
Whoa, now you're jumping again. The Constitution is a document. A Constitution has no meaning unless people take what the Constitution says and work with it or against it. I don't see that the Constitution says that bankers are permitted to make obscene profits at the cost of the taxpayer, do you? Where does it say that a banker is allowed to take taxpayer-funded money to bail themselves out and give themselves bonuses?
I concur with you. However, to allow...
Again, concur with me, then you'll go back. He's a Marxist-Leninist. I understand he's a Marxist-Leninist, so you're opposed to him having any power to do anything. You'd like to see him quit. You'd like to see him walk away and have good old Joe Biden become president, no doubt.
Do you like him just because he's black?
Now, here we go again. See, now you're reversing the racism.
Not reversing anything.
And let's say I like him because he's black. What does that have to do with anything? When does his blackness have become an issue on this show?
Well, sometimes you give...
All right, have a nice day. This is an example of a half-wit who, if he knew what he was talking about, would be a quarter-wit. In other words, that guy's a half-wit, but if he knew actually what he just said, he had become a quarter-wit.
Do you like him just because he's black?